Please note that the information shared in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. Nothing discussed should be interpreted as specific legal advice or as creating an attorney client relationship. If you have questions about your organization or situation, we encourage you to connect with your own local counsel. Welcome back to Let's Talk Solutions for the first episode of Season 3. I'm your host, Hunter Pettis, and I'm glad you joined us today. Think for a moment about your favorite ministry at church, whether it's food distribution, family life, women's ministry, or something else. You may have seen up close and personal that the work is many, but the laborers are few. Perhaps that led you to answer the call to volunteer, to lead, or to support others who serve. Often what follows an eager yes to serve is the question of, am I prepared? And today we hope to share some helpful insights. In this episode, our special guest will help us discover how we can steward and shepherd volunteers while managing risk so that the ministry can thrive. Joni Dreher has been with Adventist Risk Management since 2002. She joined Claim Services in 2011, and she brings to her role 28 years of experience in automobile, physical damage, and liability, 10 years of underwriting and placement experience, and 6 years of accounting. Nonetheless, it has been multiple years of customer service. Joni is well versed in handling things like premises medical, general liability, and auto. In 2019, Joni was promoted to manager overseeing claims department. Additionally, Joni is a licensed adjuster across all lines. She is a proud mom of 2 amazing daughters, and she enjoys cooking, quiet time unplugged from the world, and spending time with God. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Joni to the show. Good morning, Joni.
Good morning. Good morning, Hunter.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for volunteering your time and your expertise. So, as we kind of get started on the show, I want to break the ice, if I may, by starting off by saying the work of volunteers often goes overlooked. As you may know, this year, our theme is One Church Protected. And so I kind of wanted to start off the conversation by just asking you, from your perspective, how vital are volunteers in relation to the bigger picture of the church at a local or even a global level?
The importance is tremendous. You're having people bring their heart and their desire of God and of helping people to the table. And that is such a vital role in bringing other people to Christ and putting the information about our church out there. Seeing people's experience is the best example when you want to appeal to the masses in a volunteer sense.
So the beauty of this conversation that we're having is that we both work for the church, we're both Adventists, and we put things into practice. And so the beauty of this conversation is really the fact that not only are you the claims manager, but I understand it as you also serve as a safety officer for your church. So tell us about the moment when you answered that call to serve as a safety officer.
It was very interesting. It was during COVID, and we were having a lot of different conversations about many different things at that time. And I started asking questions about, well, did we take care of the doors? Did we make sure that the lights are where they should be placed and they're lighting up when they should, to make sure that people walking across the property and all those things, that our properties are protected? And I started thinking to myself, well, maybe I can take this work that I do from Adventist Risk Management and apply it to my own church, because that is just as important as what we do every day to assist our volunteers domestically and internationally. And so going into that role, a role that was not thought of for a very long time, it was a great importance. And just watching the world and how it moved. Just watching the world and how it moved. It's important that we start thinking defensive, proactive, instead of reactive when things happen.
Yeah, I hope a lot of people, especially during post pandemic, if you will, began to be a little bit more proactive in understanding that it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, and are you
Exactly.
prepared? Do you
Exactly.
have, well, more than just your toilet paper in place, you know? So,
Exactly. It's a lot of things that you have to be mindful of people coming into the church and stepping up. PMAD claims. We have to educate people. We have to be mindful about children's safety more so than ever. We're seeing our children in terrible situations. And so having the ability to have a structured person in place is important at the churches.
yeah. And I imagine in your role, you see a myriad of claims, some as simple as slip, trips, and falls, and some a bit more catastrophic. And so I can imagine that your church really enjoys having, if I may use this term, an insider. So you've worked in insurance and risk management at ARM for some time now. And I'm also curious, and maybe you could share with our listeners, like, how has that shaped the way you approach the service and safety at your church?
I'm not sure how happy they are about it because I question everything. Having this background, understanding what could go wrong, we see the worst of the church and claims department. And that could simply just be a medical catastrophe or something of that nature. And so being able to say to the church, hey, there was money stolen out of an account. We need to make sure that we have better protocols in place. You all need to be checking the bank account every single day. So if money is missing, we know about it. It can jump on it immediately because the bank has different protocols and things. And so, from that perspective, I'm able to preempt them quite often, make sure that we have adequate things in place. We understand life happens, it does. We can't stay on top of everything, but we can at least have a plan in place that if the worst does happen, we know how to move forward with it. So that experience helps me guide our church board in making decisions.
Welcome me down memory lane, Johnny. You know, I'm new to the church. Uh, I haven't volunteered as a safety officer, but I'm really encouraged about risk management as a whole. And so when you first took this role, if you recall, what was the first thing that you did?
First thing that I did, in all honesty, was do podcasts. I started doing podcasts with some of the young people to engage them while we were in COVID, because that's when I became a safety officer. And we just started putting little informational items out there. The first thing we did is if you'd like to attend church once it's open, this is the safety guidelines that you need to go with. You need to have a mask on. You need to let us know if you have any health risks. You need to sign the sheet to say, hey, I'm in church this day. So we can keep track of who's moving around. And so we did a lot of podcasts because we know that people would look at them. They will go on to the YouTube page and they wanted information, and that's how we process announcements and various other things during the midst of COVID. And so we just created something visual for them, fun for them, and it stuck. And we were able to help people even in their own home experiences and dealing with each other and cutting down on the spread of COVID at that time. And now we still move forward with the podcast, not as much because I utilize the church service to do just a little educating. I have a corner every month where I let them know what we're doing here at the church. We have a lighting problem at night. We found that out during a revival as we were preparing for that. So linking up with the deacons and the elders and saying, hey, we have to minimize our risk here and keep people safe. So we need better lighting here. So that was kind of like my first thing, is to do a walk around of the church, do a questionnaire of the church members to see how they feel about the safety of the church and what needs they think we need to put into place. And that's what we did.
Yeah, I think the beauty of I find it to be almost like the evolution of talk radio. So podcast is definitely a powerful tool to be used, and I think
Absolutely.
people can listen to it on the go or watch it when they have the time, really. So I know that you took on this role during COVID and everything like that, and that sounds like the primary risk that you focused on first. foremost.
Yes.
Would you say that there was any, beyond going through the checklist, anything like that? Would you say that there were any other risks that you found that you needed to turn your attention to? I know you talked about the lighting. Was there anything that almost seemed like it was overlooked?
We definitely had to work with the lighting. We had to work with security. We've been in this neighborhood for over 60 years. We've been in this neighborhood and are known and active to most people, but that didn't stop people from trying to break into the church. It's cold outside. You know that there is food here. And so we had to secure the church. The doors didn't always close. Individuals had keys to the church and would leave the door open. So we had to work on security and making sure that when members would come, members who had authorization to be on the property at various times, they were safe, that they had great lighting, that there were security cameras around. There's just a sense of safety when you're coming into the church. So that was a big issue. And the next issue that a lot of people forget about is medical issues that happen at church. And so we have a first aid corner right behind our pulpit. So if someone does take ill, we can administer to them. We have a nurse on duty every week to make sure that someone is here to administer first aid or any other challenges medically that we may have, and they be certified to do so.
When you're a volunteer, a lot of these things seem to be on your own terms. Sometimes it seems like they should be easy, or sometimes you don't deal with them until you're being kind of reactive. And so I know you've already mentioned a couple of challenges that came up along the way in terms of making sure that it was safe, that people weren't breaking in for the food and things of that nature. So we talked about what happened when you first started and why you answered the call in the first place. But let's kind of fast forward a little bit. Let's talk about the first few months. So you're doing the podcast, you're working with community security and things of that nature. But what, if any, were some unexpected challenges were you faced with?
Well, our dear deacons, head deacons, and deaconesses of church are responsible for the upkeep of the church. And they don't necessarily like when the safety officer comes in and begins to ask them about fire safety and fire drills. Apparently, fire drills are frowned upon during the church service, but you have to try them. You have to do things. And I'm a out of the box thinker. And so safety requires us to be prepared for everything. If the church is empty, if it's full. And so I am the safety officer that will pull the alarm during the church service. I do let people know in advance because we do have people that we don't want to startle and harm into medical situations. But those are the type of things that you still have to work through, just as it is with any other facility. We had a fire drill during the church service. People were made aware of it 2 weeks in advance. I kind of hope that they forgot. They did. And so we were able to move forward, and it was successful. It was successful. We did some training a few weeks before about what if. Gun violence is very serious in our churches. It's very serious in the world. And so you have to be prepared for when you have individuals that you're not necessarily familiar with. Our churches produce a great deal of guests. And so you always have to have proper security at the church. Some of our deacons are a part of our security team. And we just want to make sure that people can come in and have a safe time where they can let their guard down and experience God with their fellow church members. And us being on alert and having proper safety and protocols in place is how you.
Yeah. Anytime there's change, especially an abrupt and aggressive change sometimes, or something that people aren't fans of, it's met
Absolutely.
with some level of resistance. But I also would imagine, Johnny, that there had to have been some unexpected blessings in disguise from this as well. Were there any unexpected blessings that you encountered since you've been serving in this role?
Well, I've grown as a person. I've grown as a person. I will say that you have to deal with a lot of different people in this capacity. You have to be able to sit and listen to what people are stating. Being in this role is not a one man role. You have to include other people in it. And there may be some disagreements of we don't need cameras at the church. Yes, we do. We don't need dead bolts at the church. Yes, we do. We don't need a key checkout. Yes, we do. Because everybody doesn't need to have keys to the church. There's some main personnel that need to be here and monitoring the church on a regular basis. But for the most part, in order to keep the church safe, we have to minimize people's availability to it. And so I think having to have difficult conversations with people who have had keys for since the church was built, that was interesting, but out of it came a blessing because we evolve every decade. We are evolving every day now, but we evolve all the time. And so sometimes you have to go into the new thinking. And yes, we know that God is going to protect us. We know that. We've seen it. We've seen it in our personal lives. We read it in the Bible. We see it day to day when we see the miracles that God continues to perform for us to have faith in it, encourage us. And so when you're having to deal with people in different capacities and have different understanding, you're witnessing and you're volunteering. You're still witnessing to the person sitting next to you in church from a volunteer capacity. So you always have to be mindful of accepting and learning. And that's where I've grown. That's I've grown that. I don't that's the gist of it. It's been a growing experience and getting to know new people and understanding how they do things and why they do things. It has been a blessing.
Yeah, that's a really powerful statement. You're witnessing and you're volunteering. A lot of times we talk about risk management being a ministry in and of itself. It's good stewardship, but witnessing and you're volunteering, I cling to that a lot. There's
I think
some
that's how people come closer. In all honesty, I could take my Bible next door right now, and I could tell them, "Thus said the Lord," and that's important. And our volunteers do that. But when you get to see someone's life and hear about how they're living, why they're doing the things, I think witnessing now in this day and time, because people are rejecting the Lord. They're rejecting the Lord, but they might not reject you as an individual. So you have to be careful in every role that you play. And as a volunteer, you're always being watched. You're always being watched. Even when you're out in the street, you are still in a volunteer capacity and people are watching what you do. So I think that that's the most powerful form of volunteering is witnessing, letting them lead by example, showing your life. It's important.
Let your light shine.
Absolutely.
You're already touching on what leads me into kind of my next question is that you've already clearly you have to be a caring person, you have to be a detail oriented person, you even have to, as you mentioned, have those tough conversations, so essentially a good communicator. So in your experience, and maybe you can even speak to some other people's experiences that you've witnessed, that are maybe a part of your safety team, but like what are some habits that make an exceptional volunteer in this capacity, especially when it comes to safety and caring?
One of the most important things in the Bible is reaching out, is winning souls for Christ. That's one of the greatest themes in the Bible. You look at the disciples, people from all walks of life that would not have ordinarily matched up together were put together in a volunteer army to spread the word of God. Our goal is to soften the hearts of those that we come in contact with so we can hasten God's soon coming. So, our role as volunteers and our desire as volunteers, the world is not going to get better. God is giving us the opportunity to reach out to those that we can to help them have a closer relationship if they choose to. Everybody is not going to come into the fold, but if they choose to, these individuals, myself, you, all of us are volunteers in this army of God to bring others closer. It's to teach one, to reach one, to bring individuals closer to Christ. So it's absolutely important. And I believe that that's the why. The why is you are doing something so marvelous for God. I believe that the reason why we continue to wake up every day is because God has a task for us to do. He has something for us to fulfill, and that is bringing others closer to Christ. And so the why is we have an assignment and we have to accomplish it.
Very powerful why. It's a very powerful why, and I empathize with that. I think that brings a very strong exclamation point and deserves an amen to that. But for our listeners who really enjoyed everything that you said and how you played it out and how meaningful and impactful it's been for those around you in your community and everything, who now they may feel a nudge to serve in this capacity, to be a volunteer, to be a safety officer. I know it may be you started with a slightly unfair advantage because you work at ARM and you've been in claims, you've seen everything. But maybe for the average person, what are some things that they may not know, but they already have the capacity to be prepared to what are some things, I guess, to say, what are some things that helped you prepare and what helped you improve, and how could that actually help somebody else who's looking to serve in this type of capacity?
It's having conversation with people, it's listening to the needs, it's understanding how the church functions and how it can function better. I think conversation is always the first line of moving forward as a volunteer. And then certainly Adventist Risk Management has a plethora of information regarding safety officers and just volunteering as a whole that you can research in our database that goes back years and years. And again, just leading with your heart. That the first thing is just having a heart to want to do and to having a conversation with your pastor, the deacons, and then engaging your conference, who is well versed in understanding the safety officer's role in volunteering. For college students, there's a mission office at most of our schools. Most churches have mission corners. We have at the end of the Sabbath school lesson, I think every week, you have a mission story. And so you hear about the different volunteer stories and how you can help. So just doing a little research, General Conference website as well. I can provide you with a good guide and a path of moving forward. But just conversation and having a heart is the first step in involving yourself in these roles.
Yeah, I think that does sound like a good place to start. And I I also like to ask if you could just to emphasize the point and draw it home. I think, like you said, you've brought a wealth of knowledge to the table. You've been with ARM for, we'll just say, some time, and, and I know that you thoroughly enjoy what you do. I know it's not an easy job, and we definitely applaud you for all of that. I mean, even in the capacity of safety officer, that's a huge role and a huge volunteer effort that a lot of people are starting to recognize the value that it offers in terms of the ministry and how it protects not only our youth but our finances and hopes our
Absolutely.
mission and ministry to continue to grow. So as kind of like almost your if it were your appeal, your true appeal to everyone, is there any other words of encouragement that you could offer to a volunteer or safety officer who has answered this call and maybe wondering if um, their service truly is making a difference?
I would encourage, again, you to understand what your role as a human being is in a time such as this. That we have a responsibility that has been imparted to us to not only maintain our Christianity as we grow, but to continue to help others understand God better. That, I think, knowing that when you come to church and you are in the pews and you see that help is needed, that you raise your hand to volunteer to see how you can help. If you see that there's something at the church that's amiss, that is your time to speak up. It's no big role that you have to do. Everybody doesn't interact with everyone well. It may be something that you want to do behind the scenes. We have a lot of different personalities and character, and everybody is not a people person. They're very small things that you can do to volunteer and to still spread this message in our role. You can help the pathfinders with their badges. You can teach a lesson for Sabbath school. You can simply donate to the services and to the upkeep of things. So there is room for everyone to be involved. It doesn't matter how large or small. You don't have to go on a mission trip. You don't have to take on a board appointed role at the church. Your thoughts, prayers, and desire to want to assist, even in the smallest way, will help hasten God's soon coming. And it's still in a volunteer and safe capacity.
There it is.
There it
I
is.
really appreciate that, Johnny. I think our listeners also appreciate it as well. Even the small things make a major difference, make a huge
They really do.
difference. And
They really do.
so, as we've heard today, protecting the church isn't the work of one person, it's a shared commitment. I think that would be a fair assessment. And when volunteers step forward, the entire church is strengthened. So, for any of our listeners, if you feel called to service, we encourage you to explore the training and resources that will be included in the episode details. We also encourage you to please visit our website for resources that will set you up for success. From our solutions newsletter, our video resources, to our digital resources, and the Risk Training Center with our safety officer course. Also, be on the lookout for the release of our new safety officer mini course, which will be launched in the coming months. Johnny, thank you for being here. Really appreciate all that you bring and all the important messages that you've shared with our audience.
It's been a pleasure.
So, again, for our audience, thank you for listening. If you found value in this conversation, please share it with others who might benefit. You can share this podcast through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Amazon Music. While you're there, be sure to rate the podcast and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next episode. You can also access this podcast on our website. Simply go to adventistrisk.org, hover over the Safety Resources tab, and select Let's Talk Solutions podcast. There you can access and share all of our episodes. Remember, faith and preparation are not opposites, they're partners. Together, they help us honor God and navigate the risk of life with confidence. Until next time, stay faithful and stay prepared.